about Saturn moving out of Aquarius into Pisces. Yeah, post the Saturn in Aquarius. Well, almost, right? I'm filming this on the 3rd of March. Okay, so we're almost there. We're almost there. But see, I'm so giddy because it's in Aquarius, and I'm like, yes, it's over with. But I mean, almost. You know, it's like the 12 days of Christmas. We're counting down. We're counting down till Saturn gets out of my Sun, Mercury, and midheaven. and then Saturn goes into Pisces, where my moon is my Jupiter and my my Black Moon Lilith and my Venus. Fun times. But hey, I am so relieved it's moving out of Aquarius. So how have the last 2.5 years been for you? How did this Saturn transit treat you? Did you come out more mature, more wise? Because you know, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to sober you up. And my God, I am so sober post this transit, right? And if you didn't catch my last live chat that I put out and you want to hear more talk about this, more candid talk, you know, totally off script, no textbook astrology here. I don't have any notes today. Because I'm winging it with the sun right now. I am winging it. But yeah, if you want to hear more about it, and I was winging it there too, then check out that video because I talked a lot more about what the last 2.5 years have been like, and particularly for the Aquarians, dealing with us coming into a time where not only is Saturn getting out of Aquarius, but now Pluto is moving into Aquarius, so we're coming into more empowerment. But there was a lot of internal turmoil. There has been, and I have felt it, okay, over the last 2.5 years with these sober lessons in, you know, with the Saturn energy, okay. So I will say, let's start off with me talking about personally, then we'll talk about interpersonally, then collectively, okay, with Aquarius, and then we'll go in reverse with Pisces, Saturn and Pisces, what I think is going to happen collectively, interpersonally, and personally with Pisces, okay? So, personally, with Saturn and Aquarius, I think on an individual level, regardless of whether or not you are an Aquarian, we individually have been dealing with themes of personal freedom over the last 2.5 years. And I think it started out with some very stern, hard lessons with COVID and all of that, and what happens when you put the shackles on humanity, when you try to fence humans in, so to speak, when you try to cage people, lock them up, have conditional, highly conditioned living, okay? And I think that a lot of people were naive coming into that transit. It was a test. Saturn does that. Saturn's going to test you. And Saturn tested humanity at the beginning of this transit. And I'm sorry to say a lot of people failed the test. And the karma for that, when we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about karma. The karma for that is that we've seen a lot of fallout. A lot of people lose their fruits globally. We've seen a lot of people now having to deal with the economic fallout of, you know, not standing up for their personal freedoms and rights. Also the loss of bodily autonomy. People gave into fear of health problems, which actually caused them to make decisions that created bigger health problems. And with the South Node in Scorpio during this time frame, we were seeing a loss of life, right? We're seeing secrets coming out, the darkness, the shadow energies of people coming out, right? Having to face those fears head on, having to look at the life in more of a sober, mature, through more of a sober, mature lens, okay? Less naive and gullible of, oh, well, I'm sure that, you know, Big Pharma would never try to make a profit off of me. Government's here to help you. that jazz, right? Very familiar now. So now if I had said this to you, think about it. If I had the same conversation to you back 2.5 years ago, pre-COVID, you would have heard it differently than you're hearing it today. And a matter of fact, I went back and I looked at some of the old readings that I put out forewarning people of this stuff prior to COVID. And I tried to do it in a subtle way because I didn't want to get blacklisted, and I ended up getting blacklisted anyhow because I got during that transit. I'm like, I don't care, you can ties my channel or blacklist me or, you know, whatever. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I found my voice during that transit, right? I hope you found your voice during that transit, okay? But yeah, I think that I was trying to like warn people and they just didn't hear it the way, like if you would go back and look at those videos now where I was talking about how to stop being lied to, I think I'm going to do a rerun on that. I'm going to repost that at some point, might even turn it into some shorts, okay? Because I think people are going to hear it differently now, okay? When people heard it back then, when I put it out, I don't think they heard it quite the same. And the same with, I put a video out about gaslighting media and politicians, and it was pre the 2020 elections. And, you know, to be totally truthful and accurate here, as the Aquarian I am, I'm going to call it a selection anyway. Okay, so was trying to warn people, like, here's how you see through it, here's how you see through it. And I don't think hardly anybody watched that video, but if you go back and watch it now, you're gonna be like, oh shit, that was going on, you know? And so we come out of this wiser, you know? But damn, those were some heavy lessons, were they not? And so, oh, low battery. I'm gonna have to condense my words. Okay, so that's more on a personal level with humanity and individual freedoms, bodily autonomy, that type of thing. But I think bodily autonomy become more issue when we get into this Pisces, okay, because it's more about health, spiritual freedom, things, beliefs, things like that. But I feel that the freedom was more about thought, right? We had a lot of thought police, and now it's coming out that the fact checker paid for and the trust the science was also paid for. The truth is all coming out, and those are the sober, heavy lessons that you got to take responsibility, think for yourself, take responsibility, make informed choices. And if the information's not there because, gee, you know, we don't have the data on that yet, or it's being censored, we can't hear all sides to make an informed decision for ourselves, well, maybe don't make a decision, or, you know, wait till you get more information, or, you know, just understand that this is risky, and know what risks you're taking. Don't be in some kind of naive delusion about the fact that you're engaging in a science experiment, hello, and nobody's held liable legally. All right, so personal stuff, you know, about personal truth and expression, freedom of you know, being free to think differently and speak differently. I think this was big individually, you know, a lesson for us as the Aquarians. Aquarians, we're dealing with a lot of karma, a lot of limitations, and I talk more about that on my live chat. So like if you want to know how that relates to me personally, go watch my last live chat. And I think at some point I'll make more of a video on, probably when Saturn gets out of my 10th house, I'll talk more about that Saturn transit in the 10th house, okay? That was pretty challenging, okay? But, you know, I said in that video, the silver lining that I'm coming to see of this transit is that it happened right before Pluto goes into Aquarius. So as Aquarius is, you know, getting the shackles thrown off and stepping into more power, we come into that power with maybe more of a maturity to handle the power better, right? Like you don't want to give a sheriff's badge to anybody, right? That could very much go wrong, okay? So, you know, we come in, we get the sheriff's badge, but we've been vetted, okay? We've been through boot camp. you know, I'm not saying all of us made it through boot camp, but you know, I think that we take more seriously now the responsibility that we have going forward, and I think it was all in divine timing. Brutal, but at the end of the day, I see your point. I see your point. I get it, and I'm glad it's over with. Okay. On the interpersonal relationships. Sorry, I had a bit of an interruption. I am filming. No, you just want to stare at me. Okay. All right. So on the interpersonal relationships, I think that I do think that because of what we've been through collectively over the last 2.5 years, I think that people are opening up more to you know, this stuff that went down the last 2.5 years with people saying you can't come spend Thanksgiving with us unless you're COVID tested, or if you got your shot or whatever, you know. I think that the veil is being lifted, and I think that people are now starting to understand that sometimes what you think you know, you don't really know, or maybe you don't have all the information, maybe the information is inaccurate, or you know what, maybe you're right, but people have the freedom to choose differently and live differently and think and speak differently, and you know, it's more, I think, more of an allowing. Okay, let's just say that. So I feel like relationships with us coming out of this transit is going to be more open, more freedom giving, more freedom nurturing for relationships, whereas when we were going through this, people just, it was like you couldn't say things, you were not allowed to think things. Definitely don't put it on social media. You get your ass taken down in a hot second. So we're getting beyond that, and I think also collectively that we're probably going to see these conversations come up more on the social media platforms, because remember, so you know, Aquarius is like social media. It's not just thought, communications, and friend groups, and socializing, and humanity at large. Media. So I think collectively we're gonna, and we're already seeing it with Elon Musk taking over Twitter and the Twitter files, and people are waking up to how the media and social media has been infiltrated by monetary interests. And so I do feel that we're going to see more of these conversations coming up in Congress, more legislation, right, even at the state level, like you've seen in Florida, with them saying, we're not going to allow for this. There's even some countries where the leaders of other countries have said, you know, Facebook or whomever cannot operate here if you're going to treat our citizens this way. and, you know, promote certain candidates while censoring others. So I think there's a great awakening about information, the information age, empowering people to have all the information and to make fully informed decisions. And so I think, you know, tough lessons on how we arrived here to this understanding, but here we are, and I'm feeling positive about it, actually. So okay, and yeah, I'm going to say also on a collective level, with Pluto going into Aquarius, we're going to see humanity rising up more and more, okay? I'm not saying it's all roses, but I do think that humanity is starting to take their power back more, and I feel like that, I guess, you know, sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better, and we definitely learned what happens when you defer your judgment and your decisions over to authorities that can and have been corrupted. So, all right, let me move on, and I'm going to just, you know, in full disclosure, say that I have not studied the Saturn in Pisces transit to the depth and level that I would like to, and that I definitely will over the next few months. But I will say that on an individual level, I think that this is a lot about spirituality and beliefs, and people having to get very grounded about what they put their faith in. Again, coming out of that Saturn and Aquarius transit, people are starting to look at, why did I fall for that lie? Why did I believe in that? Why did I trust those people naively? Because, you know, Pisces is also about victimization, self-victimization, self-sabotage, passivity, playing victim, playing possum. And so I do feel that there's going to be a lot of karmic lessons, a lot of heavy lessons about what happens when you don't step into your own authority, and you don't take responsibility for what you have been given dominion over in this material realm. I think we have to keep in mind, and it's something I didn't mention, you know, when I was talking about the Saturn and Aquarius transit, but there's always this mirroring going on, right? And I got to bring it up even now with, you know, us being in Sun in Pisces and coming into a full moon in Virgo. There's this contrast always, you know, when we're talking about Pisces, we're kind of look at what's going on with Virgo, because that's a spiritual realm versus the mundane. So, you know, what's going on in the 5D versus the 3D. I mean, you know, it's, I don't know why I'm being brought back to that saying, and I'm probably butchering it, but it's something to the effect of being so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. Okay, so people who just believed in things that at the end of the day were not grounded in reality, there's that mirroring aspect. So I think that's something that's going to come up over the next 2.5 years, and people are, you know, going to have to work through those issues and start dealing with the reality and how they've maybe Neptuned out. And I'm telling you, if whoever's not awake right now, whoever is still Neptuning out, sweet Jesus, pray for them, because don't ask me how I know, okay? All right, you know, that's gonna get dealt with, okay? So Saturn doesn't care about your feelings, okay? You got to put the work in with Saturn. No mercy, right? Find your feet, right? And so, yeah, I'm running out of batteries, so I'm going to close this video by saying, yeah, I'm going to do a part 2 of this, because I don't want to lose this video. I don't want to cut it off, and I think that I need to say more. But right now, I feel like I need to leave it at that, and part 2, we will talk at another time about how Saturn in Pisces is going to impact interpersonal relationships and the collective, the world at large. All right, so I hope you'll join me for that. If you want to make sure you get notified, then make sure you have hit the subscribe button, activated the bell for notifications. If you do not activate the bell, you will not be notified when I put up another video. I know, I hate telling people, but we got to do it on here ad nauseum. So thank you for listening. And until next time, wishing you all the best. Be blessed.